I feel like I really missed an opportunity to talk about how good the hit point bars look in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon while I was doing my trailer breakdown for the Dusk Lycanroc, and then the comment section, they were just like, hold up. Let's talk about how nice the battle layout looks in this game, because that's something to look forward to right there, and as crazy as it sounds, it's honestly nice. I think the biggest aspect about it is that it just looks clean. Everything feels necessary and provides the information that it needs to in a very minimalistic but sharp looking approach. That when comparing it to Pokemon Sun and Moon, I think the differences become obvious, that I know I can see what was being done here. The Pokemon Sun and Moon, they were really trying to promote the Alola region, this Hawaiian kind of laid back attitude, so we just kind of get like a nice little tropical splash. I think that that is a really fair way of kind of breaking down how it looks, a tropical splash, and I feel it was gimmicky, that after a while, I kind of didn't appreciate it as much, and it does get in the way of the battle scene a lot more than what we see in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So I think just how clean it is, the minimalist approach is a little bit better, that it also looks a lot more serious when you just have standard hit points bar, gets all the information across that it needs to, and it doesn't look too flashy. So I think it provides the right amount of information. And honestly, the opponent's side looks really good as well. That's just like a boldly saturated color, and that just has a nice thin little strip, like here's the opponent's hit points, the level, and if you've caught it or not, there's the name, good luck, have fun. And another thing to talk about is also the text pop-up. The text pop-up kind of takes the same approach. We have these sharp lines, and it covers enough while also having a really good coloration to it, and then it's just sharp. So I think that that's something really nice, and if anything, a little bit of an aspect to look forward to in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, as crazy as it sounds. And I'm kind of looking forward to this because maybe it'll just make your battle experience feel a lot more cohesive, and then we also get to think about how it's going to look on the dual screen. We haven't seen the bottom screen for the game, so if there's also like a change to how the touchpad interactivity works throughout the game, could just be a better gameplay experience overall, which is honestly what we're looking for. If we want an upgrade for Pokemon Sun and Moon, just looking at these finer details shows that Game Freak cares and they're putting a lot of attention into the game. Now, one thing, and probably the main discussion point of this video, is also looking at other aspects of the trailer, such as Lycanroc's hit points and it tanking a freaking hammer arm from a Beware. Wait a second, is Dusk Lycanroc going to be like insanely powerful Pokemon? Is it going to get those crazy base stats? Well, let's actually kind of break down and see what we have right here, because it survives with 27 hit points, so it takes less than 100 damage. Is that even possible? So let's go into the damage calculations. That's pretty much what this video is going to be. It's going to be damage calculations to try to see if we can get any information from this Dusk Lycanroc trailer other than, hey, it looks pretty, but what about the technical aspects behind it? Well, it kind of doesn't make any sense. So right now, I'm trying to get as close to Midnight Lycanroc's hit points as possible, but at the very least, it does not have an 85 on the base hit points, so I'm trying to really figure out what's going on here. Now, I'm assuming that these are like wild-caught Pokemon or like newly created Pokemon for the purpose of actually displaying them in-game, so I'm not expecting any EVs to come into play. That's just going to be like wild-caught IVs potentially, and that might have an impact as to what's going on here. But as we can see, Dusk Lycanroc has 123 hit points, so even 0 IVs, 0 EVs gives us 126 at level 43 with an 85 base hit point Pokemon. So that's not really helpful, which makes me feel like it might be a hybridization. That it's going to be the stats kind of mixed between midday and midnight form. So that could be a good or bad thing. I was just kind of hoping it took the best of the stats because it does have Counter and Accelerock, but it also kind of like mixes the numbers. That means we're not having the crazy sweeping potential of the midday Lycanroc. And in any case, Dusk Lycanroc shouldn't even be able to survive this hammer arm from the Beware. So I did 0 IVs, 0 EVs from the Beware, and then that's still going to be more damage at the very minimum than Lycanroc took. So even on the lowest damage roll possible, that's too much damage. There might be some shenanigans, but what about my hybrid idea? What if it's actually like an 80? Or an 85. Well, that still kind of doesn't make sense, because even on the lowest damage roll, that's still more than 100 damage, unless it's like a hindering nature. Like, did they just happen to encounter a modest Beware and then find the damage? No, even that gets kind of too much, so we really can't determine the stats of Dusk Lycanroc off of this. Maybe EVs do come into play. Maybe it's like the lowest possible IVs and hindering nature on the Beware versus whatever Lycanroc is up to. So I think we need to look at other trailers to see what to expect from Game Freak when they put out promotional material about a new Pokemon game. And I honestly remember doing this. That was really hyped for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and then when we saw the Zygarde trailer, it's like, wait a second. this Pokemon just gained base stat points to the hit points and gained hit points mid-battle. That's something that doesn't happen, so we really need to start putting in the math for this one, because it started off as a Zygarde 10% form, has 125 on the hit points, the form procs, and then it goes to 287. What stats are we dealing with right here? So Zygarde 10% actually has a 54 on the base hit points and shows to have something strange like 22 on the IVs. Having 31 is impossible for it to match up with that, and even if it had like 0 and then EVs, that really doesn't match up. However, we can see that it is the same one because 22 IVs with a Zygarde complete form, that's going to be 287. Now, one thing we were actually able to do was predict it by just looking at the Zygarde. That having a Zygarde with roughly the same EVs kind of shows that there is a doubling of the base stat total and then keeping the consistency right there. So I believe I actually made that prediction in my video, that it doesn't just double the actual stat, it doubles the base stat, because the base stat for hit points functions differently, and then when you like modify it with EVs and IVs, you don't actually get a doubling. That if you double a base stat, actually let's just do it right here. So let's take 50 base speed and then 100 on special defense. These stats factor the same, but as you can see, doubling it actually gives you less than the double stat in the end. So as you can see right here, going from 108 to 216 base isn't going to give us over 300 hit points, but it is a prediction that could be made off of that. So in some situations, depending on the stats that we're given, we can predict a Pokemon's stats in the future, or at least give a ballpark estimate. This doesn't really help us out with Lycanroc because it's just a random IV number. Let's try some other trailers because this is interesting. In this battle, we actually got to be on the receiving and dealing end of damage between the Japanese and American trailers. One thing that was interesting about the Zygarde trailer is the hit points are only shown in the Japanese trailer, but not in the English trailer, and then with this we can kind of get the same idea, that we get to see Solgaleo attacking, but then we also see the reception of the damage for the Salamence. So we see that the Salamence in trailer has 155 on the hit points, and then 212 hit points on the Solgaleo. What do the damage calculations show us for that? Well, it shows that Solgaleo is a 31 IV hit point Pokemon. Being legendary seems to make sense for a wild caught one, but 0 EVs. So this is kind of where we can get the confirmation of potential 0 EVs on a Pokemon that's being shown in whatever's going on with the promotional material, but then that kind of doesn't explain the Lycanroc. But then also shenanigans are afoot, because the Salamence has 0 IVs in the hit points to be able to obtain a 155 at level 50. So it's not just like they're all programmed in the same. Sometimes it seems like they're wild caught, and other times, like rolling that 0 on the hit points kind of seems awkward for a wild caught Pokemon, but also if you're doing it for the promotional material, hey, Salamence needs to get KO'd, maybe we just drop its hit points down as low as possible, make it look good, which is why I feel like this might be a little rigged for the Lycanroc tankiness, that unless it ends up with like a strange amount of defenses, which kind of goes against Midnight Lycanroc. Midnight Lycanroc is supposed to be the brawler. It's the one that even has like the animation where it's waving its hands like, come on, attack me, because Midnight Lycanroc's fighting style is intentionally taking a hit and then countering damage back, so it's meant to be the bulkier one. But if we actually have higher defenses on Dusk, even though its body style resembles Midday, which is the frailer one, I don't know. All logic starts going out the window, which is kind of like just shown right here that I don't even know what's going on with Solgaleo and Salamence. Now, one thing that adds to this is that when you see the Sunsteel Strike, for it to KO the Salamence, it has to be doing some shenanigans, so it needs 252 with an adamant nature, max IVs on the Solgaleo to then be able to one-shot the Salamence that is 0-0-0-0, and maybe even a hindering defensive nature just to make the show look pretty good. And now we get to solve for Dusk Lycanroc with the arbitrary value of EVs coming into play. This is not going to be fun. However, we get a little bit of advantage because if we're trying to take the best of the stats, well, Midnight Form Lycanroc has an 85 on the base hit points. That is impossible even with EVs because EVs can't subtract, and with that 123 at level 43, then that means at the very least we're dealing with an 80 base, or it could be like an 82 base, but I really don't see that making any sense. So it's gonna be like 80 base, maybe some weird IVs, maybe some weird EVs. Okay, cool, but then for the defense. Now, if we were going to be taking the best of the stats, then we should have the 85, 75, 75 from that Midnight, and then give it like Midday speed, or Midday speed with Midnight's defenses. that doesn't seem like the case either. So I'm really feeling like it's going to be an averaging, that we're getting 97 on the speed, and then that means we're going to have 70 on defense, special defense, and 80 on the hit points, which means that this is going to be a fairly underwhelming Pokemon for how exclusive it is. But hey, look, we survived the hit, and there's where that 96 is hiding. So I feel like there's even extra shadiness going on with how this trailer is portrayed, because it's the lowest damage roll with a 0 IV offensive Pokemon with a max IV, max EV defending Pokemon that has who knows what on the stats. But at least Game Freak made it happen, and it's possible, and then it was able to counter and take down the Beware. So that's kind of what we're considering as to what this is turning into. Looking at some other Pokemon, well, what about Lycanroc? Lycanroc has been shown in a trailer, and that's another one that kind of is awkward. That, okay, we have 29 IVs on the midday Lycanroc with that 75 base. We don't know about the potential EVs, so not quite max, but still high enough, and then has a 149. So this seems like a potentially wild-caught Lycanroc. Maybe it has, like, meh IVs, but then a little bit of EVs that were just kind of tagged in as well, and I don't know. That's honestly one I don't know. They show midday versus midnight, and it just seems like a random stat distribution for the hit points on that Pokemon, and it's not really shown as a max or an intentional hindrance as well. Don't know what's going on right there. And as you might have noticed, I brought in Tapu Bulu. Well, the Tapu Bulu in the trailer has 172. Being a legendary Pokemon, you can expect it to have a max amount of IVs in one of the stats, so 31 IVs on the hit points does seem to be feasible right there, but then 0 EVs. So unless they're doing direct damage calculations, like unless they're trying to make an impact. As we can see in the trailer, they're wanting Lycanroc to survive something from a Beware. They're also showing that Solgaleo is one-shotting a pseudo-legendary Pokemon like the Salamence, as well as also showing it off, like, hey, full metal body, well, your Intimidate doesn't matter, and now I kill you for that. So it seems like if Game Freak wants to make a point, they might tamper with the EVs, but until then, they just take like wild IVs, 0 EVs, and they throw it up there. 172 on Tapu Bulu makes sense, seems completely realistic. That's just some kind of crazy stuff that we have to consider when looking at the trailer breakdowns. And also, one thing I wanted to add on is that with the release of the Japanese trailer, we actually got an English reveal, but on the website. So I'm wondering if the Pokemon Company, like, this is weird, because we're getting dual releases. We're getting simultaneous information, except it's not on the English Pokemon YouTube channel. It's on the Japanese YouTube channel. However, that's actually directly in line with the anime. So I wonder if we'll get, like, the Dusk Lycanroc trailer as we get closer to launch of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and then the anime has time to catch up, or if it's just going to be, like, website only, because what's the point of not making an in-game trailer if you could just check it out on the official Pokemon website? Then with the spreading of news, the information kind of comes through. So there we go, guys. What do you think? Do you think that the battle layout just looks really good in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Do you like the older layout more? Also, what do you think about Dusk Lycanroc stats? I was really hoping that was just going to take the best. You know, it takes midday, midnight, and then it says, alright, the best stats of those Pokemon, we now have, like, an actually good Pokemon. That by taking the best of the stats, you're having a Pokemon I believe has, like, 507 in the base stat total on Dusk Lycanroc. That's not even, like, incredible or overpowered. It would just be good. So I think that's going to be it on the Dusk Lycanroc. Like, the only other thing in the trailer is that Talonflame, a 4 times weak Pokemon to Rock-type moves, goes down to a Rock-type move, which isn't really that surprising. Also, Accelerock makes contact, so Tough Claws with the base stats and all the other things that we know about Lycanroc. There's no funny business going on there, but the real funny business is what you guys think. Like, I want to know if you guys think that it's going to be just an averaging of the stats, kind of like a true hybrid in that breakdown, that, okay, we're going to get the cross between midday and midnight stats, so it's going to be like 80s and 70s, or are we actually going to get the higher end? Is it going to be a midnight Lycanroc with midday speed, or a midday Lycanroc with midnight's tankiness, something like that? However, do the hit points just kill it? Like, is the dream immediately dead right there? Because it's just absolutely impossible from what we've seen off the trailer for the Pokemon to have 85 on the base hit points. So that means it's not getting Midnight's base hit points, so everything else has to be average because of that. Or are we going to see some other just craziness coming out with the base stats on this Pokemon, just because the hammer arm math just makes it look very unlikely that this is the case. So there we go, guys. That is all I really have to say about Dusk Lycanroc at this time. We'll see what else comes out, but I've really had fun. I really like looking at the finer details. You know, sometimes people just dig or they go for like the fake leaks out there and all the false information, but sometimes you can just kind of look at the trailers and get enough information in front of you to maybe see if there's a trend. Now, a lot of the Pokemon that have been shown in Pokemon trailers seem arbitrary, but at the same time with Zygarde, you could have made the prediction for a 216 on the base stat total with the information we have available. We already know roughly what a Lycanroc is, so a Dusk form Lycanroc, if it's in the middle of the stats, that kind of works out. So it means slightly tankier, but then the Pokemon's going to be underwhelming overall. Or maybe just Lycanroc needs a rework, gets buffed, and then that's going to help out both midday, midnight, and then Dusk Lycanroc. So there we go, a lot of possibility. Please leave your comments down below. Also like this video if you think it was fun doing the math and finding all the work and stuff. I have a t-shirt campaign. You can find that in a link below or in a link in the description. And there we go. So guys, enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.